It was a warm night, 10 o'clock, it was dark. It's coming into spring of '94.
We'd been driving around and I was just looking out the windscreen and I saw one red light and then another one joined it and then another one joined it and they were like dancing in the sky.
And then they all descended down to the trees. At this point, I got a bit scared.
The red light streak that it left hurt our eyes.
It just appeared. It just was there in front of me, in front of my car.
I must have been taken away aboard those lights, but I can't remember anything. I can't remember a thing.
Can it really be a coincidence that these cases have so many similarities? This has been going on since the dawn of time. It's always been with us, and now more and more people are coming forward and speaking out about it.
I just want to find out the truth. I'm not frightened anymore.
I tend to think that we were taken. We had those vague memories of laying on the table.
White faces, darker eyes, and they were wearing white.
We took it to the US Navy, and sorry, no comment, no comment.
I'm sure there are people just like me who are driven mad from not knowing.
I'm fairly sure I know what's going on, and I now just hope I live long enough to see some of this come to fruition and everybody knows what I know.
So I was born in Hitchin, and we moved to a village called Sawtrey in '86, and I was living in Sawtrey at the time of the experience, so that was in 1994. I was quite into computers, computer games, playing outside with my friends, usual things, you know, athletics. I was a good sprinter, I used to do a lot of running. We used to go to the arcades a lot, playing arcade games. So on the day of the experience, I was with my girlfriend at the time, out in the car, just listening to music, sort of chilling out really, it's usual stuff young people do. I can't remember where we'd been during the day, but it was getting late and she had to be in by 10 o'clock because her mum had set a curfew of 10 p.m. or the door would be locked and she would be out all night. So we were sort of looking for a phone box at the time, because this is obviously before days of mobile phones. We found the phone box and made the call to her mum, and I remember it was 9:55 because it was 5 minutes. She had 5 minutes to be home, so I specifically remember it was 9:55 that she called, and her mum said it's too late, the door will be locked, so she wouldn't be able to come home that night. Whenever I pass through this area, I always feel a bit strange nowadays. I don't know, it's just a weird feeling to know this is where it happened, and I'm going back. So we're nearly there now. I'll show you where the phone box was. The phone box used to be on this green. It was around here. Oh, it's still there. There's a phone box. That's it. I didn't think it would still be there. I didn't know what to do at that point. I thought about knocking on her mum's door and seeing if her mum would let her go in for the night. But while we were contemplating this, we were driving through the main village road and I needed to turn the car around. So there was a smaller road to the right where I thought I could do a 3-point turn. However, once I was on this smaller road, it was so narrow, there was nowhere to turn the car. So I carried on driving down this road looking for a clearing. Eventually come to a clearing, I think it was about 100 metres down this road. And I don't recall anything else. I don't remember driving back up the road. The next memory I have is we're both sat in the car at the top of the road with music playing in the car, and it was playing the other side of the cassette, and I thought that it was really odd because I knew every song in order on that tape. I recorded it myself, and it was towards the end of the other side as well. So I asked my girlfriend, I said, did you turn the tape over? And she said no, she hadn't. So it was an auto reverse tape, so I assumed that it had been playing for quite a while for it to have been playing the other side. And that's what made me look at the car clock, and it said 10:50. I then looked at my watch, and sure enough it was 10:50. But we had only just phoned her mum 5 minutes before that and drove through the village. So how can it be 10:50? If you've got 50 minutes of lost time, there must have been something that happened during that time. There must be, but I can't remember it.
There are a number of different theories about this missing time. Of course, the believer theory is that this is precisely when an alien abduction took place, and that for whatever reason, the people at the center of this then have their memories wiped, maybe as an external process done by the abductors to cover their tracks. Or maybe some people believe that the human mind itself, perhaps because of the trauma of these experiences, or perhaps because they don't neatly fit into the box of human experience, somehow edits out these memories. But I think there are more conventional explanations that should also be regarded as on the table. Some of these accounts will be fabricated. Some will be the product of some sort of vivid dream or hallucination. Some may be attributable to psychopathology, but others may be some core phenomenon that is currently not understood by science.
While we were sort of in the car thinking about this, I noticed to my right a red light moving over the hill. It was just like an orb, like a glowing light in the sky. It didn't seem like there was a light on a craft of some sort. It was more like they were just, the whole thing was glowing. While I was looking at it, behind it I saw another one, and then another, and I think in total there was 5 or 6 of these red lights in a line just moving up the hill. They were like flying across this land here, not as far ahead as the trees. They were sort of going up into the sky, like they were coming from behind that direction from the ground. They are flying up, and they flew overhead straight in front of us, and they stopped in a line above these trees. It just stopped stationary. We were parked about 100 metres away, sort of facing towards them. Initially, these two started moving towards each other like that, and then they flew past each other, and they were moving at such a speed towards each other. I thought there was going to be an explosion, and I remember shouting out that they're going to crash. And the next thing I know, at the last minute, they avoided each other, and then all of them started moving, and they all were just like dancing in the sky, doing figure of eights. They were dancing around each other, but they were moving so fast. It was unbelievable. I was just watching it thinking, they're not planes or helicopters. They're not weather balloons. You know, whatever it is, it's some sort of technology I've never seen.
Most sightings today have a rational explanation. You always start with that. But when it comes to the early 1990s, we certainly didn't have technology like we have today. People might pass it off as a military training exercise or natural phenomena that could explain these. But when you think of the maneuvers these lights did, what is it that could duplicate that at that time? And I can't think of anything that would be obvious.
It looks a bit like when you see kids playing tag in the park. It was like they were playing a game with each other, just flying around each other and having fun. That's what it looked like. We was just in awe of what we were seeing, and I know that my girlfriend felt the same, because I remember looking over to her and I actually asked her, "Are you seeing this?" It was obvious it wasn't anything that we'd seen before or experienced. It was something totally new, something totally unknown to both of us. A lot of people might think that what I saw was just planes or fighter jets, but I don't think it was, because I've been to air shows, and so I'm well used to how they move, seeing jets moving and helicopters. I'm used to sort of seeing them manoeuvre in the sky, and this was totally different. It was no engine sounds, moving at sort of speeds that are way beyond what I've seen a plane move at. It wasn't even like turning, they would just change direction instantly. So personally, my hunch is it isn't man-made, but I can't prove it.
Some people will look at this and say, well, surely this is military activity. And indeed, of course, there are a couple of nearby Royal Air Force bases. But one particularly interesting thing is the fact that these objects seem capable of immense speed. And time again, the witnesses say, this is like no aircraft that I've ever seen before. And it's not as if these people haven't seen military jet aircraft. But There are really maybe only two things that I would think fit the bill. The first is some sort of astronomical phenomenon. The other thing that I think is worth a look is lasers and searchlights. And it can give the impression of multiple UFOs almost chasing each other around the skies. And so this might explain the strange orbs and the movements, but of course it doesn't explain the missing time.
I think this show lasted probably 30 seconds, 45 seconds, and they all lined up at the end in the same position they were originally in a line. They hovered there for a few seconds and then they all descended down to the trees. It looked like they were landing. At this point I got a bit scared because I didn't know, the trees weren't far from us and I didn't know if they were landing and what they were or who was piloting them. I didn't get out and walk around. I didn't quite have enough courage to do that. We had a quick scout about, didn't really do a proper search. It was literally just like a minute or two and then we drove off. We left it at that really. So should we take a walk down there and have a look? I must have been taken away aboard those lights, but I can't remember anything. Can't remember a thing. It's the not knowing. You don't know what their intentions are. But the very fact that I'm still here, I'm still able to talk about it is a positive. So their intentions couldn't have been totally bad. I wouldn't be here talking now. So that leads me to believe potentially it was a neutral experience. It didn't seem to harm me in any way. I should mention that after the experience, I had this weird thing in my upper chest area, and it was like a little black dot, a little black grain under my skin. It looked like it was about the size of a grain of rice. I went to my doctors about it, and she actually pulled it out. She threw it away in the bin, but I wish I probably should have kept it.
When it comes to individuals who've had these type of experiences, there are a small number who claim that something has then been placed under their skin in different parts of the body, usually in the nasal cavity or in the hand or in the ear. The theory is that there is some kind of device put there by the aliens to either communicate with them or to track them. This is all speculation, of course, there is no proof for this, but it is another interesting side to these encounters.
Now, if we could get our hands on these so-called implants and study them in a proper scientific environment, of course, that would be a game changer. But so far as I'm aware, nobody has yet gotten any of these into a mainstream scientific or medical laboratory and studied them to the extent that somebody has written up a peer-reviewed paper. And until that happens, until and unless that takes place, these are really just claims with no scientific proof.
I was born in Cambridge and I lived the first 6 years of my life in Cambridge, and then we moved to Newmarket to be with my mum's parents who were getting older so we could look after them. Yeah, I've always been a carer. If I was to have to go out and get a different job, I wouldn't know what I was doing because I've always done that. So it was back in 1994, I was 18 and my best friend had just passed her driving test. And we didn't want to stay at home because, you know, sitting in with your parents is boring. So we'd been driving around and it was getting dark. I think it was about 10 to 11 and my friend said, I want to roll a cigarette, so we needed to stop somewhere. The field that we parked in is just over here to the left. It's quite a concealed entrance, really. You can't see it very well. We parked probably about here and the car was facing that way, and my friend was rolling a cigarette and I was looking out the windscreen and I saw one red light and it wasn't flashing like a normal aeroplane or a helicopter. It was going across the tops of the houses in the distance like that, backwards and forwards. Then another one joined it and zigzagged across the top, and then another one and another one, a total of 6 of them. And they were dancing in the sky, like playing tag with each other, and we just couldn't believe they were getting so close to each other that we thought they would crash. And then, like a bullet from a gun, one of these things shot in a millisecond from there, directly behind that hedge. The red light streak that it left hurt our eyes. It was that bright. I've never ever, and neither has my friend, seen anything that's moved that fast in our lives. It's impossible. And it was huge. It looked like it had crashed. It was like on fire, and you could see it through the leaves on the bushes. It was sort of glimmering and glistening. It looked like it should be hot. So, oh my God, I went to get out and have a look, and my friend grabbed my arm. She said, "That could be anything. For God's sakes, just sit down." So I did. So I didn't go up to it, but it then decided to lift up from behind the hedge really slowly, completely silently, come over the top of our car, and we both kind of felt a bit slightly woozy. And then we blinked, looked at each other. It had gone. We noticed then that the car clock was flashing 00 instead of 10 to 11. So we thought, why is it flashing? So we looked at our watches, and it was 1 o'clock in the morning. And it was just, we lost 2 hours just like that. It would have been seamless if the car clock hadn't been flashing. We wouldn't have known we were missing time. And then we sat in the car for quite a while, just going, what happened there? We both have sort of vague memories of being on beds. But it was only very vague. There was not much there. It was just that one memory we both had, where we were both laying on these beds. But other than that, don't really know what happened.
This second 1994 case must be regarded, I think, as one where the potential conventional explanations are the same as for the first case. So I think we would be looking at an astronomical event, and again, military activity, and again, lasers or searchlights. It is possible that 2 people can see the same thing and misperceive it. So, for example, lots of people can misidentify aircraft lights, particularly if they are seen under unusual meteorological conditions. But the more factors that arise in independent cases that are the same, the less likely it is that people are misperceiving.
I've been back a few times since, but yeah, I still, the enormity of the whole experience kind of comes back to you when you stood here. It's been 26 years. Yeah, just too amazing to even explain how you feel about something like that happening to you.
I worked with Gwen, and she'd had an experience that I didn't know about, and I'd had an experience she didn't know about. And then one day she put on Facebook something about some UFOs, something or other, and I thought, that's odd. I wonder if she's had an experience. So I inboxed her. Have you had any UFO experiences then? Because I have as well, but I don't like talking to people that haven't, because they ridicule you, don't believe you, think you must have been drunk or drugged or whatever. She went, oh yes, and she went on to tell me about hers. And you think, gosh, at last, there are other people out there with similar stories. I worked in this office in Cambridge and I lived in Newmarket. On this particular day, I rang my mum, said, put the dinner on, I'll be home in 20 minutes, and I left. And when I got to the crossroads, there was a very, very bright light in the field. I thought it's the time of year for combine harvesters, so didn't really fuss much about it. And then suddenly the bright lights raised up a bit, and then this saucer came out, up, over the hedge, and just covered, absolutely covered my car. So low, if I'd opened the window I could have touched it. And just followed me. The faster I went or the slower I went, it just remained with me over my head at all times. I screeched around into Newmarket, but I got up to the cemetery and gone. It gone. And I carried on down the high street, and just as I was going to turn left to go up my road, it just appeared. It just was there in front of me, in front of my car, as if to say, we know where you live. And it took the whole road. The whole road. But the middle light wasn't on then, it was just the twinkly lights around.
When you look at this lady's case and the description of the object, it's very similar to the Alan Godfrey encounter in Todmorden, West Yorkshire. Alan was a police constable on night shift. So he drove up through the main road and he saw a light up ahead. And as he got nearer, he said, it's not a light. It was an object blocking the road. It was shaped like an old-fashioned children's spinning top, but it was dark coloured. He said the top part was like either panels or windows, and the bottom half was rotating. So he took out his notebook and started to draw this thing. The next thing Alan remembers is then several hundred yards down the road, now driving the patrol car, no recollection of restarting it. And when he looked back, this thing had gone. He turned around, it had been raining that night, so where this thing was above the tarmac, the road was dry. He got back to the police station and he was late, i.e. missing time. And Alan will swear blind. He said, Philip, if I'd got out of my patrol car and I had a brick, I could have thrown it at that thing and it will go clunk. When it comes to cases like these, like with this young lady and with Alan Godfrey, we go to Dr. J. Allen Hynek. He's the man who invented the phrase close encounters. But what Hynek also did, he said high strangeness cases are the ones that we should concentrate on. And high strangeness is up close and personal, basically. Because let's be honest, if we see a little light in the distance, it can be pretty much anything, usually an aircraft. But with these instances where you are yards, feet away from them, surely it's that much more difficult to misidentify a conventional object.
So I looked up and then I just saw the windows with the people in the windows. And there was about 4, 2 together and 2 at the side. And they had blonde hair, blonde fringe, white faces, darker eyes, and they were wearing white, so they were very white.
I think you would say that the two predominant entities reported in association with UFOs and alien abductions are the Nordics and the Greys. The Greys, of course, are generally about 3.5 feet tall, greyish in colour, large, jet black, almond-shaped eyes. And the Nordics, these tallish entities with fair complexions, long hair, the ability to communicate telepathically.
I think they were communicating with me in my head. I could hear them. And gone. Just poof, gone. It was like it disappeared down the black hole. I went round the corner, jumped out the car, left the engine running, ran in the house saying, Mum, Mum. She said, don't you mum me. You said you would be home in 20 minutes. That was over 2 hours ago. I said, no, I came straight home. And she said, no, you didn't.
When it comes to these episodes of missing time, you know, what could have happened in those missing minutes or hours is really up for debate. One of the theories is that people have sleep paralysis. However, if you were to encounter sleep paralysis while driving a car, for example, surely you would crash it. There is a phenomenon known as highway hypnosis. that if you are on a long, boring journey, you kind of forget about travelling from point A to point B. You've just done it automatically. I've done it coming home from work, you know, the same route, the same time, every night. Before you know it, you're home. But this is not that kind of scenario. It doesn't explain it at all. So, you know, I don't buy those theories. They may explain one or two incidents, but as a blanket cover, it just doesn't work.
And then my dad came around the corner because he'd been at work. And I said, you saw that in the sky, didn't you? He said, oh, what, that low-flying plane? I said, it wasn't. It was a UFO. And he said, no, it wasn't. And don't you tell anyone that, because if you tell anybody this, they'll carry you away in a straitjacket. He said that, and I knew then I've seen something I shouldn't have seen. So I never mentioned it to anyone. I was told not to, so I didn't.
So I am meeting for the first time a man called Adam. I posted a video on my Facebook, which was the closest thing I could find to what I'd seen that night.
I replied to the post and I started talking to her after that. In this day and age, we do have that ability to do that through technology, which is great. Because back in 1994, I don't think I would have ever imagined being able to meet someone who experienced the same thing as me from that time as well.
It's like fishing. It's like, I need to find somebody else this happened to, and I haven't ever been able to. And he commented on it and he said, I need to speak to you. Exactly the same thing has happened to me in 1994. I can't even tell you. It's like winning the lottery, finding somebody, you know, that actually knows what you've been going through.
We've spoken briefly about each other's stories, but it's going to be nice to actually put a face to the name and to sort of meet her properly for the first time. Yeah, so I'm excited about that. Hello.
Hi,
Hiya.
nice to meet you.
Lovely to meet you.
Should we go through?
Okay.
Isn't this all strange?
Very.
Still amazed. I still can't
Yeah.
believe it.
Same. Just gobsmacked, yeah, just how similar stories are. It was similar time of day. We're both in sort of secluded areas at dark,
Well,
in a
they
car.
actually follow on from each other, don't they? So yours was from 10 o'clock to 10:50
Yeah.
and mine happened 10:50 to 1 a.m.
Yeah. We were both 18.
Yeah.
Can it really be a coincidence that these cases have so many similarities? I think there are two possibilities. One is that the similarities arise because this is what the phenomenon is, and people are accurately reflecting and remembering it. The more skeptical interpretation is the similarities arise because of expectation and preconceived notion. So people are perhaps experiencing something a little bit more nebulous, but they're filling in the gaps because that's what they think people want to hear, because that's what, maybe through things like the X-Files, they think the phenomenon actually is.
This sort of memory of it seems a bit sort of like dreamlike. I can only describe it as sort of like a dreamlike state.
Fuzzy
and a bit
feeling,
fuzzy.
that's
When
what
you
I was
said
saying.
fuzzy,
I
that's
had a-
exactly how I
Yeah,
described
we had a
it.
fuzzy feeling when it came over.
That's so, that exact word. For myself, I knew what happened, but it's for other people, family and friends. So maybe for someone else to be saying the same thing will sort of show that I was being truthful all along.
Before this happened to me, I wasn't interested in UFOs really. I think I got up the next morning and it's weird because Mum didn't even ask me where I'd been, because if I'd been that late, you know, any other time she'd have been going up the wall, but she didn't even wonder where I was. I told her what happened, but I think it's quite a lot to take in, and obviously I was young, so I think she just thought I had a wild imagination and left it to it, and I thought, I'm not going to push it because, you know, if she thinks I'm crazy, it's going to make it worse, so I just left it. My friend who I was with in the car, she just finds that she's so scared of the ridicule. She doesn't, you know, she doesn't want to be any part of it. She'll speak to me about it, you know, but just that's as far as it goes. I've experienced a lot of ridicule, yeah. People just think you're crazy. People just laugh when you tell them that you've seen UFOs and this happened. Oh, well, what were you smoking? What were you drinking? You know, come on, there must have been something to it. And I think it's out of their comfort zone to think, to believe that there is actually life on other planets or anything like that. You know, it's too much for them to take in. So they just make fun instead. But I don't care, I've got thick skin, so.
In my whole life, I've probably told 10 people. At the time, it was probably 5 or 6. But I got quite a negative reaction from them. And I think that sort of led me to sort of close up and not want to talk about it anymore because of that reaction. Most of them didn't seem to make the obvious assumption about the loss of time, the 50 minutes, and what the implications of that could mean. So that's the part that I've not really explored myself, and I do want to arrange some sort of regressional hypnosis in the future to maybe explore what happened during that time, see if I can recall anything.
Hypnotic regression is a technique that is sometimes used with this type of case where there's been a period of missing time, and it's quite controversial. It's still up for debate. Basically, it's hypnosis, but while you're under the hypnosis, you are asked to try and relive it. Now, there are those that say that all it does is tap into your fantasies, your dreams, and that it's not a truth serum. That what information is divulged under hypnosis is therefore unreliable. However, the opposite argument is that hypnotic testimony doesn't necessarily differ radically from testimony where there's been no hypnosis used. And I don't think we should necessarily be debating too much about the information that comes out under hypnosis. I think we should look at the individuals that want it. Did it benefit them or not? That's the main thing.
I have done a regression. The stuff that came out in my regression was quite out there. I tend to think that we were taken. But as I say, from just going from what actually happened, we had those vague memories of laying on the table, and I know that my friend wasn't very happy about the situation, and I could hear her shouting the odds and telling them to get off her. But you know, that's what we can remember even without regression. But then we had the regression.
Regressional hypnosis is not often looked upon as like a hard science. It's not seen as proof of something, but it's just another tool to try to understand something that's happened. I was frightened before about what I might find out potentially about what happens. There may be sort of repressed memories. I'm not sure if it's that or whether it's something that's been blocked from me remembering. But I feel now I'm a bit older, I feel like I just want to find out the truth. I'm sort of at a different stage in my life now. I'm not frightened anymore.
Make everything as tight as possible, and then just let everything go. So remember you're safe at all times. Just talk me through what happens next.
I just see some sort of movement in the trees. I don't know what it is. Some sort of light in the trees. I don't know if it's getting bigger or coming towards us. I feel like I need to drive away. It doesn't feel right. It's sort of a white light, and it sort of hit us in the car. We can't move. It's just like a beam of lights hit our foreheads and we can't move. Next thing I remember is we're in some sort of room. I don't like it because it doesn't feel right. There's something wrong. I don't know what's happening and where I am.
What would you say the room was like?
It was round and dark, quite dark. metallic sort of round room, quite small, ceilings quite low. I can see some sort of creatures or something, I don't know what they are, they're just sort of like standing watching, but not near. I'm laying on something. They're really small, like they look like 3-4 foot, like little kids, but they've got big heads. I can't move either.
So if you wanted to move your arms and legs, you feel as if you can't?
No, I can't move. They've done something.
Right. So
I can move my eyes. And I can see one of them, he's come a bit closer and he's got big black eyes and big head. And he's talking to me. Yeah, he's talking to me in my head. I don't know how, I don't understand.
that's okay.
He's saying, just don't be frightened, don't be frightened. Everything's okay, but it doesn't feel okay. It feels wrong. I shouldn't be here. I've been taken against my will. This is not right. He's trying to calm me down, but I'm not calm.
So then what happens?
I'm just back in the car now. Oh, wow.
Don't sit up too quick, you'll probably feel giddy. I'm going to get you some water.
Now I've got tears in my eyes. Thanks.
So in this case, we do indeed find many of the common factors in a large number of these alien abduction accounts. There was a UFO, there were entities, they spoke telepathically. This is a real two-edged sword. On the one hand, you could say, because so many of these common factors are present, it's a sort of corroboration, because yes, that's what these experiences look like. That's what happens. On the other hand, you could say, well, that's an argument against the reality of this, because someone has maybe come across these sorts of reports, either consciously or perhaps even subconsciously. So it's a circular argument.
Yeah, just come out, and it's brought up a lot more questions that I'm probably going to explore in the future. A lot to process as well. A lot of revelations that I need to process. Things that I wasn't consciously aware of, that I now am. It's going to take time to go through that and work out what it means, if I can. It's like replaying a memory in your mind. I was in my body, looking out through my own eyes and feeling the same feelings that I felt at the time and the same thoughts. It felt like myself when I was 18. Possibly this information isn't for everyone, and it's natural that some people will have a guard up against certain information that seems almost unbelievable. No matter what the proof or what the reality, some people just will not accept it, and I think that's just a fact of life. It's just how people are.
When we look at these three cases, I think the conclusions we can draw by the information we currently have is that it's highly unlikely that they have witnessed anything of a conventional nature. So something out of the ordinary has happened to these people, the nature and origin of which still escapes us.
More and more people are coming forward and speaking out about these sightings and experiences. But I think it is almost beyond doubt that for every report we hear about, there are a whole bunch that we don't hear about. Because there is still, I think, some stigma about this. So for every person who comes forward and speaks out, there are probably 3, 5, 10, 100, we just don't know, who are having these experiences and staying silent. So part of the challenge is saying to people, don't be afraid to come forward, because the more people we have coming forward, the more likely we are to find that elusive thing that must connect these people in some way, because they absolutely believe that this has happened to them. So if it isn't extraterrestrials? What's going on that gives rise to these incredibly detailed narratives?
It's really weird. It's really strange sort of seeing myself in that room and the things I'm saying. It's a bit surreal. Yeah, I did actually speak to Gwen after the regression, just to see how similar our experiences were, and it sort of confirmed to me what I suspected was the case, that I was taken onto some craft, you know, and to see these beings as well. It's a bit extreme, really, isn't it? I haven't been focusing on it too much, to be honest, because I think you can get too carried away with it, and it could sort of make or break you. But I just want to carry on with my life, really. I don't want to focus on it too much. I don't know if there's much to be gained from that.
This happening to me has affected my whole slant on life, really, because I know something that a lot of other people don't know. You know, that, I mean, whether it was alien or what it wasn't from here. And I play it back in my mind so much, and then people ask me about it, that it's like a recording in my head. I'd say this is a positive experience, really. You know, how many people get to see something like that?
I've always been one to be open about anything before the experience, and after the experience I find my head in the stars more than anything. We have a big universe, and if people think that we are the only people, well, I feel sorry for them, because if they had an open mind, they would understand there is definitely more.
Not really too worried what other people might think. No. I'm at this stage now in my life, it's just best to get the truth out there, I think. If we all just get the truth out there, whatever that may be, we can piece this thing together.